Hey friends, welcome to the Swing My Heart podcast. Come join me, your host Nicole, for some hope-filled conversations about heartfelt entertainment that makes your heart swing. Hey Hearties, welcome to the Swing My Heart podcast. I'm your host Nicole, of course joined once again today by my wonderful co-host Theresa to talk about When Calls the Heart, season 11. Episode 8, Brother's Keeper. It was written by Jeanette Powell and Lindsay Sturman and directed by Stacey N. Harding. Elizabeth and Nathan rescue Tom from a sticky spot, and the town rallies after a setback. With the help of his family, Joseph mends an old rift. Gowan counsels Lucas. So what were your hot takes on this episode, Theresa?
I really liked it. I actually went in with fairly low expectations just because I felt like the choir storyline, not super high stakes. I was kind of like, okay, let's just wrap this up and, get to some of the plot heavier stuff. But I actually was pleasantly surprised. It was a really good episode, lots of great scenes. And yeah, I really, really enjoyed it, especially the end, which of course we're going to talk about. But
yes. Me too. Yeah. I think I gave it 9 out of 10 on your scorecard.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't give it a rating, but if I were to rate it, I would say about an 8.5 or 9. I would give it.
Yeah. It was a pretty good episode.
Yeah.
And I think Jeanette did a great job with the Canfield storyline.
Yes.
And her first episode as a writer.
Yes. Welcome to the family.
Yes, welcome to the family. And also, we'll talk about them a little bit more later on, but welcome to the family, Deron Bell, too.
Yes. Very excited to have him.
Yes. But before we get to the Canfields, why don't we just talk about the investigation first?
Let's do it.
We got some juicy info in this episode. We see Clayton Pike arrive in Hope Valley. And before we get into the nitty-gritty of it, I did think it was interesting that he arrives by car and not by the regular, the prisoner wagon like we've seen in previous seasons.
Yeah, it just shows it's very subtle shift in modern times, but it's also a first look at what transferring prisoners looks like nowadays, just in the back of a police car.
Yep.
And yeah, it's no longer the prisoner transfer wagon, which in some seasons was, could be considered maybe a little bit, uncomfortable because it was so tight for some prisoners, and you've got the bars. It's very menacing looking, but now we've kind of moved on to maybe a more humane way of transferring prisoners, and I like that subtle nod to modern times.
Yeah, me too. Rosemary wants to immediately meet Pike, and this was the scene from the Hallmark Movies Now preview we talked about a couple weeks ago, where Rosemary's just like, I want to go in.
Yeah. Yes. I think she at least at this point in the episode, she's still very like wrapped up in the whole process, and just it's kind of like a big like murder mystery game for her at this point. So she's very much like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go question the prisoner,
Yes. I love how Bill says the two of us might overwhelm him, and Rosemary says, nonsense. You catch more bees with honey. I think we talked about this last week too.
As soon as I heard her say that, I thought of our conversation. I was like, yep, we talked about this last week.
Did we manifest that for episode 8?
Apparently, I guess we did.
Is Rosemary channeling Abigail? I think she is.
Yeah, either that or it's a very popular saying in Hope Valley. Who knows?
Of course, we see Bill and Rosemary talk to Clayton. He's worried about his mom traveling by himself, and they share what they know about the case. Bill says, tell us who hired you, Mr. Pike. Maybe we can help. And then he completely avoids the question. And he's like, I wonder what's for lunch.
I was surprised by this because I was fully expecting Clayton Pike. I had a theory that maybe the Mounties were telling him not to tell anything. Maybe whoever had hired him was telling him not to say anything. And as soon as he was free in private to talk, I was like, oh, he's going to open up. He's going to tell them everything. He didn't tell them anything. And I was not expecting that.
Well,
not expecting that at all.
I knew that he wouldn't say, because I don't think we're going to actually know until the finale who shot Lucas.
Fair. Yeah. I had a feeling he wasn't going to say, like, oh, this is who did it. But I was surprised he didn't tell them anything at all. Like,
yeah, at first he was very standoffish. And then when Rosemary said, you know, who she is and that she talked to his mother, he was like, I know. And he kind of softened a little bit, which I thought that was nice.
Right. Yeah. He clearly cares a lot about his mother. She's kind of his priority at this point. And so you could kind of see that in like little subtle ways or not so subtle ways, but you could see everything he's doing is for her.
Yeah. I'm not going to lie. I do kind of feel bad for him.
Oh, yeah. I think we're supposed to at this point. And it's obviously, I'm pretty sure most of us at this point don't believe that he did it. I think he's just an accessory. And I know I've said in the past, like, oh, I think Pike did it. I don't think that anymore. And if I do think that and if he were to have done it, it would have been under extreme duress. So yeah, I don't think if he did it, it was completely his decision.
Yeah. And let's just talk about that, because after the scene with Lucas, when Lucas comes in, this was a great scene. Chris killed it in this scene.
That was so good. That scene was so intense. And I was sad it ended as quickly as it did because I wanted to hear the answer to the question.
You know, I appreciate that Clayton said he was sorry for what happened to Lucas, and Lucas just says, I just want to know why. Clayton, if I tell you, I'm a dead man. And if you don't, am I? Don't.
Yeah. And notice that Clayton, he says in the scene, he says, I'm sorry about what happened to you. Not, I'm sorry about what I did. Not, I'm sorry about, you know, hurting you or whatever. He said, I'm sorry what happened to you. So it's, his verbiage is telling me that he obviously didn't do it. And I think Lucas knows that. I think Lucas knows more about it than we do at this point. And I think that they might have said something to each other in this scene that we didn't hear because the scene ended. Yeah. But I think that Lucas knows something, and I'll get more into that a little bit later. But I do think something was said in this scene that we don't know yet.
I think after this scene, like I just mentioned, Clayton has the proverbial gun to his head.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt at all. And I think in a way, it's also, you know, not just him at this point that's in danger. I think everyone involved in this case, the more they get involved, the more in danger they are, which we'll talk about more in a minute. But yeah, I think Lucas is still in danger as well.
Clayton, when he's leaving, he tells Bill and Rosemary, specifically Rosemary, because she's the one that is saying, you know, this is your last chance to share if there's anything you want to tell us. He says, be smart and stop asking so many questions. And then Bill grabs him by the arm and says, did Montague hire you to shoot the governor? All you need to know about the guy behind this is he's got eyes everywhere. If I rat him out, he'll get to me, even inside prison. And we'll go after his mom, too, Hazel. And then, you know, Nathan assures him that the Mounties wouldn't let that happen and they'd arrest him. Then Clayton says, not even the Mounties can touch this guy. Leave this alone or he'll come after you, too. I think Hardgraves is involved because
I think if nothing else, at least that Hardgraves is being influenced by this person to not pursue this case, and not only to not pursue this case, but to block Nathan from pursuing this case. I think that he's very corrupt. We know that. He belittles his secondary officers, and now I think he is, easily influenced by scary people. And we've seen this before with May's case. And the mayor of Chicago basically strong-arming Hargraves into having May transferred. We've seen this before. So this is, I think, if nothing else, Hargraves is too weak to stand up to this guy.
Yeah. Like when he said not even the Mounties can touch this guy, I was thinking, that screams Hardgraves right there.
Oh, yeah. My first thought was of Hardgraves, but my second thought was of, I'm going to throw this out there. I think this is Amos Dixon from season 6. I think that it's Amos Dixon, and the reason why is because Pike is showing a lot of the same reactions and fear that Lucas was showing in season 6. Remember, Lucas wouldn't tell anybody about what was happening, not even the Mounties, the law. And remember, when he explains to Nathan why he didn't tell them, he said, Amos has a lot of people in his pocket. I don't know who to trust. And here's Pike saying the same thing. So it's a lot of similar reaction. There's this grip of fear, not just of the man himself, but also all of the people that are working with him. And it all leads back to, one person in charge with a lot of people underneath him that can do his dirty work. So that tells me that it's possibly Amos Dixon. Also, the fact that Pike said he can get to me even in prison. Where is Amos right now? He's in prison.
That's a good point. Yeah. And what was it you were just telling me before we started recording about what Amanda said in her interview with Sarah and Julie?
Yeah. So Amanda apparently said in terms of Lucas's shooter, to look back on previous villains in the past. I can't think of a better, bigger, badder enemy to Lucas specifically than Amos Dixon.
Yes. Or Wyman Walden.
That too.
Because he's in prison as well.
Yes, that could be. That definitely could be.
Yes. I'm looking forward to finding out who it is that did this and bringing them to justice. I think if that's the right way to say that. Yeah.
Yes. And I think that it was in that moment that Pike really, Lucas already knows this, but I don't think Rosemary, Bill, or Nathan fully grasped that this is more than Lucas almost got shot / assassinated. This is a life or death situation for anybody who gets involved. And I think for the first time, Rosemary got a little bit of a taste of reality. Like up until now, it's been kind of a game for her. But to see Pike be that scared, notice that was the first time that she questioned, maybe this isn't Montague. She said out loud, she's like, could Montague instill that amount of fear?
That much fear.
Bill is so focused on it being Montague that he's just like, oh, we don't know what he's capable of. But I think both she and Nathan were kind of like shook by how scared Pike was. So I think they might be thinking a little bit elsewhere, even if Bill might still be focused on Montague.
Nathan said he's terrified.
Yeah. So all three of them, and Lucas, are in a lot of danger right now. No matter who it is, they're all in a lot of danger right now. It's going to heat up later on in the season.
Let's talk about how much danger potentially going into the resort that taking Montague's bid could cause.
Yes. It's frustrating and
why, Lucas?
But I will say this. This is why I think something was said between Lucas and Pike, because I think Pike may have tipped Lucas off that it wasn't Montague who shot him. And that's why I think Lucas might be more open to taking Montague's bid. And I think that might also be why he's very against taking Jeanette's bid at this point. Because working with Jeanette opens the door once again to Amos Dixon because of his ties to Jeanette. So, although that's me assuming that it's Amos Dixon, but I do think Jeanette must have some serious problem if he's not taking her bid, and we still don't know it yet. But he's obviously taking Montague's bid, which tells me possibly that Pike said something in that scene to kind of tip Lucas off of, oh yeah, he's not the one who shot you.
And I'll just go ahead and bring this up now. I don't know if you saw it, but on the cast list for episode 10, Cecilia Deacon.
Mm-hmm.
Jeanette is coming back in episode 10.
He's coming back. Yeah, I'm excited.
Yes.
I've wanted her to come back since she left, so
yes.
Hopefully,
she's a great character, even if we don't actually like the character.
Yeah. See, I do like her, but not because she's a good person. I like her because she's interesting.
Yes, she is an interesting character. I do agree with that. And Cecilia has done a great job.
Yeah, she has.
Yeah. I'm excited to see Cecilia back for another episode.
Me too. Yeah.
I loved how Henry stood up to Lucas. But you can walk away.
I love that too. That was one of my favorite lines of the scene where Edwin's like, oh, it might make you look weak. And Henry's like, Edwin, that's a story you're telling yourself. Lucas, you can walk away at any time. And he's right. He's 100% right, because right now Edwin is not a good advisor at this point. He's very self-interested, and that's not helpful to the situation. So I think Lucas at some point is going to kick Edwin off of his team and make Henry his advisor, potentially.
I would like that.
Yeah, I think that would be good because Henry obviously has done all the wrong things in the past and can kind of guide Lucas to not make the same mistakes.
Eric has done a great job playing Edwin, but Edwin is a big no right now.
Edwin's made a lot of whoopsies in the last couple episodes, and it's kind of showing his true colors, which is not great.
Yeah. Fantastic actor, but the character...
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Not liking him so much right now.
Yeah.
But moving into some characters we do love, which are the Canfields and a little bit of the Coulters, which we'll talk about very shortly. I'm so glad Jacob made his way to Hope Valley.
Yeah, I love that too. And you can see that, he wants to reconnect. But at the same time, he wants the apology too. And there's this longing to get to know his niece and nephew, and he holds no ill will against Minnie, but he just wants the apology. And I think so it was sad for sure.
Yeah. We hear that Jacob lost his love for singing a long time ago and hasn't been to church in 20 years. And I love how she encourages him to stay.
I feel like Joseph initially wasn't handling things super well, but Minnie kind of was the go-between between the two brothers, because obviously she wants her family to get along with each other.
Yeah.
So I loved how she was kind of that go-between and kind of the voice of reason for both of them in that situation.
Yeah. The scene with Joseph after that was pretty good too, when she says, if he's too stubborn to bend, shouldn't you? And then, he's saying, I don't know what to do. And she encourages him to ask God for guidance.
Yeah, that's definitely the right advice.
Yeah, I think so too. We got to talk about this scene. Love a good porch swing conversation on this podcast.
Yes.
Joseph and Henry, that was a great moment.
It was. And it's so, like, there's such a juxtaposition of having the town preacher asking Henry for advice, because in the past we've seen Joseph kind of, be Henry's guide a little bit more.
Yeah.
And this, like I said, was kind of a contrast to that, because Joseph is struggling with forgiveness, which is something that Henry struggles a lot with, forgiving himself. But mending this breach and asking Henry for help, it really, gives Henry a chance to not only share his wisdom, but also kind of give back to Joseph in a way. Whereas maybe a couple years ago, Henry wouldn't have been able to give back to Joseph in this way. But now he can actually return the favor to Joseph. Yeah. It's not just Joseph giving Henry advice and encouragement. It's Henry's giving back now, which is a great, great moment.
Joseph and Jacob at the library. This was a great scene too. And I love how Angela and Cooper kind of set them up.
They totally set them up. It was great. Yeah.
I think it was Ben maybe who tweeted this. And I just saw it, I think, yesterday. Like, some of my tweets sometimes are delayed. But I think he posted how this is the Parent Trap reincarnated, except it's with an uncle and not parents.
That makes sense. Yes, that's a good analogy.
And not romantic.
Yes.
Which is totally right.
Definitely right. Yeah.
Yeah. So we hear in this scene, everything changed after they lost their granddad. He was the one who helped them find their voices together. Joseph stopped singing with Jacob after he met Minnie, which, of course, in turn caused Jacob to feel abandoned. But Joseph didn't know that because there was no communication.
Yeah. I think what I'll say about this is that for the amount of buildup and the amount of, like, not talking, being estranged, like, not understanding each other, I was a little bit underwhelmed about the reason why. Like, I mean, I can understand the feeling abandoned issue. That's definitely a legitimate feeling, but it seemed to me like, based off of what Jacob was saying, it was more about the not singing together aspect of it. And I was kind of like, I mean, not talking to your brother, leaving church, not singing ever again seems a little bit dramatic of a response. But I do think that it was more about the abandonment issue, which I kind of wish they had delved into that a little bit more rather than the singing aspect, because I understand the singing aspect is a big part of it, but I would have preferred a little more attention to the abandonment.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a very relatable storyline to a lot of people. I mean, of course, I can't relate to it because it's never happened to me. But, I mean, I thought they did a great job with the storyline, but it's definitely not what I was expecting.
Yeah. I will say, I heard a lot of theories. I had my own theories. I had a theory that it might have to do with Joseph having faith and religion versus Jacob not, and there was a little bit of that in there. I heard some people say, I believe it was you added this to our conversation last week, that maybe they had been fighting over Minnie at some point, which is kind of where I thought it was going. So those are like big issues, and I felt like all of us were thinking it was going to be something massive, and it turned out to be something not that big. So I don't know. I was a little bit underwhelmed with the explanation. Yeah, but I understand the abandonment part of the issue, and that I feel like does warrant a lot of those feelings that Jacob was feeling, for sure.
Yeah. But all in all, you've got to communicate.
Exactly. Like, if Jacob was feeling that way, he should have just told Joseph. Or if Joseph was paying attention, he probably would have noticed. So, a
Like,
little bit of communication. The longer you don't communicate, the longer
it just builds
yeah.
up.
I mean, look at Lee and his sister. They didn't talk for 20 years either. And the reason being that a little bit similar to Joseph and Jacob. First, Patrick died, Lee's younger brother. Then Lee's mother died. And then Lee's father was just, kind of inconsolable. And his older sister was forced to take care of the father. And Lee just went off on a journey to go get away from his grief. So she felt abandoned. And in that sense, it makes sense. And I can understand the emotions that Jacob was feeling, akin to maybe what Susanna was feeling about Lee.
Yeah.
But like I said, it just seemed like a bit of an easy fix. It would have taken very little conversation to fix that issue, I think, compared to maybe what Lee and Susanna were going through.
Yeah, I agree.
So, yeah.
And the second scene at the cafe, I love when, they all walk in and Cooper's saying how he wants to join the choir next year. And Minnie's like, why not this year? And he says, baseball season.
Yeah.
And then Joseph and Jacob, mend things. They talk it out. They hug. And then I think Joseph is the one that says, you think you can still out-eat me?
Yes. They have you could see a little glimpse of that nice brother relationship they have there.
Yeah.
And it almost makes me wonder how much younger Jacob is to Joseph.
I don't know.
Because that might play a role into kind of the whole disagreement. Maybe he's a lot younger, and maybe that's why it might be a little bit more of a big issue for him.
And Jacob saying the blessing was really beautiful too.
I loved that. That was fantastic.
Yes, me too. Moving on to the Coulters, they had a couple of nice moments. Just briefly, I love when they're talking about how Goldie is the social butterfly and apparently the most popular kid in daycare. And Rosemary says, she hasn't even started talking yet. When that happens, ho ho, look out world. I wonder where she gets that from. Me. Pretty soon, I won't get a word in edgewise because I'll be too busy hanging on every gem that falls from your lips.
Oh my gosh. Lee is about to be outnumbered.
I love how Rosemary's just like, me!
Yes.
She gets it from me.
Wouldn't it be hilarious if after all that, it turns out that Goldie is actually really quiet? That would be hilarious.
Yes. Oh my gosh. And then we get him asking about, what's on the plan for her day. And she mentions her and Bill are going to talk to Pike and his protective husband mode in full force, which I love.
I love that too. And I do think that this is a little hint of something that we might get further down the line, which is I think Rosemary's got this case going. It's starting to snowball a little bit out of her control, and she doesn't want to tell Lee everything. She's starting to keep a little bit of secrecy with him. And he's starting to, I think it's on his radar, and he's starting to get a little bit worried. So I think his worry is going to increase. I think her, secrecy might increase. And I think it's just going to snowball to a point where he's going to be really, really concerned. And I think she's going to finally admit she's in over her head.
Yeah.
So I think we're getting there. There's little sparks of it here and there.
Yeah. We saw those pictures yesterday from episode 10 of Lee, Rosemary, and Bill, where Lee and Bill look really concerned.
Yeah, especially Lee.
Yeah.
And it in the pictures from episode 10, it's almost a contrast or a good visual. If it kind of goes the way I think it's gonna go, you have Rosemary holding, Goldie, and Lee's kind of like watching, and it just kind of is a visual representation of, oh, Rosemary's in danger. She could potentially lose her family. She could be in danger. Goldie could be potentially left without a mother. Lee might be seeing that, and it's a scary thing for Lee, and I think Rosemary, even if she's not ready to admit it yet.
Yeah. I think I'm going to predict now that possibly she's going to get kidnapped.
I think kidnapped or threatened or something of that nature. I think the danger is going to become very real for her later on in the season.
Yeah. I think in a way, her getting kidnapped could possibly call back to Elizabeth and Julie getting kidnapped by the Tolliver gang.
It definitely could, for sure. Also, it could call back to when Elizabeth and Lucas were held hostage at the end of season 6. It could definitely call back to that as well.
Yeah. And definitely, if it's at the cabin, that would be a total callback.
Oh, it definitely would, for sure.
Yes. Can we just briefly talk about their dance at the festival for a second? That was adorable.
It was so cute. It's so fun to watch them like having fun. It really brought back vibes of season 2. Kind of there's a moment in season 2 where they're kind of flirting, and then he asks her to dance, and they just kind of go off on the dance floor. And Jack and Elizabeth are just kind of like watching them, like, oh wow.
Was that when Elizabeth came back from Hamilton the first time?
Yes.
And they had the party for Elizabeth?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that's that moment. It reminded me of that. Yeah.
I love that one.
Yeah, I love how Lee and Rosemary, they never lose their spark for each other. They're always going to have little hints of every aspect, like every moment of their journey. You're always going to see little aspects of like, oh, that reminded me of when they did this, or
Anyway, moving on to Nathan, Elizabeth, Tom, and the choir. The first scene with Elizabeth, Tom, and then Nathan, who shows up at the row house. That was a great moment. And again, my heart broke for Tom when he says, Jack was right about me. I'm nothing but a screw up. And Elizabeth says, that is not how Jack felt about you.
And she's right. He never did feel that way. He just, he felt that Tom might be going in the wrong direction with his life. And I think he felt that Tom could do so much more than, just kind of go to different bars, get in fights, drink his way through life. Like he knew Tom was capable of a lot more. And so he never thought of him as a screw up. He just thought he could be much more than that. Yeah. And so I think Elizabeth is definitely telling the truth here.
Yes, she is. Sweeney is in custody.
Thank goodness.
Yeah. They thankfully recovered the money that Ned wired to him. But, of course, he's a gambler, and the money raised by the other choirs from Benson Hills and Jameson is gone. $300, including travel funds.
Let me just say, he must be a really, really bad gambler. If he had $300 and lost it all, he must be a really bad gambler.
Yeah.
What are the odds that you gamble and lose every bit of the money that you have? I don't know. You must be a really bad gambler.
Yeah. Nathan is saying if Tom can't pay it back, he could be charged with accessory to fraud. Boo.
Yeah. I mean, not all the money has been restored. And even though the actual suspect is in custody, it's still, Tom was part of the plan. Yeah. And he can say that he didn't know what was going on, But at the same time, he tells Elizabeth and Nathan, there were signs. I should have known. There were definitely signs. And that does, in a way, incriminate him to a certain extent.
Unfortunately.
So, yeah.
I did love how Elizabeth apologized in this scene. She says, "I'm sorry, Nathan. I should have listened to you. I should have trusted your instincts." And he says, "You just wanted to believe in your brother-in-law. There's no fault in that. And besides, I trust your instincts too."
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. It was a good scene, and I love seeing her kind of like acknowledge that she messed up. She probably should have, like, you look back on that episode 7, and technically out of anybody in the group, Nathan was being the voice of reason about the money and about Sweeney. He's like, maybe we should question this a little bit. And I know that Rosemary and Elizabeth were having their doubts, but Elizabeth is very much like, she wants to give people the benefit of the doubt, especially people that she wants to give a second chance to. Whereas I think Nathan is a little bit more cynical, I guess, a little bit more of a realist. But in this instance, Nathan turned out to be right.
Yes.
And she wanted him to know that. And I love that she apologized for that, because we don't see Elizabeth apologize very often.
No. I'm glad she did.
Yeah. Yeah. Not that she fully needed to, but I think it's nice because she's apologized a few times this season already. And even if she didn't need to apologize every single time, I think it could open the door to maybe her apologizing for some things that she does need to apologize for.
I was about to say that.
Yeah, that's where we're heading, I think, which makes me happy for sure.
I don't think that is coincidence at all that she's apologizing.
Yeah, because like I said, Elizabeth does not apologize very often. She does not. Obviously, for whatever reason, I don't know why, but she's been apologizing a lot this season, specifically to Nathan, and she's being a lot more sensitive to how he's feeling and more aware of how he's feeling in this season. And I think that shows that effort in her part. And I kind of want to just talk about this for a moment.
Yeah.
About Elizabeth, specifically. Okay. I think one thing, it happened so gradually in this season that I didn't really notice it until this episode. But one thing I've noticed is that she is so focused on helping other people at this point, which is something she did a lot of in seasons 1 through 5, like helping her students, helping people resolve disagreements, helping people out of scrapes and whatever. And then when the whole love triangle thing happened, it was very much like internal dialogue, if that makes any sense, like a lot of like internal focus. But now it's very much an external focus. And I love that we're kind of back there a little bit. It just kind of shows that she's kind of back to who she was maybe pre-triangle, if that makes any sense.
Pre-season 6, 7, 8 triangle.
Yeah. In season 6, I feel like she was just very wrapped up in taking care of her child, which is totally understandable. I think once the love triangle kicked off, it's hard not to think internally when you've got a lot of attention from, men that are interested in you. So it makes sense. But now it's nice to see her kind of going back to her roots of wanting to help people and, being focused on, more other people than just her own life and everything like that. So,
yes, I agree. Yeah. Also, really briefly, I just got to mention the choir meeting because I loved how Nathan, with Elizabeth's encouragement, came up with the fundraiser idea on the fly.
Yeah, that was not on my bingo card that it would be Nathan's idea. Not on my bingo card at all, but it worked. I was very happy with it.
Yes. I love how he says it like 3 times. It's a fundraiser. It's a fundraiser.
Like, just in case you didn't hear me the first and second time, it's a fundraiser.
Yeah. And then Elizabeth repeats him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he was stalling to make time for somebody to think of what kind of fundraiser it would be.
Yes. And I love Tom's reaction too. He's like, "No, you go ahead. You share."
Tom's like, I don't know what you're talking about, but you go
Yeah.
ahead.
And Rosemary's enthusiasm. "Where's my clipboard?"
Yeah, well, you knew we all knew that she would jump on it
Yes.
immediately.
Yep. And then I also love "Nice work, Constable." And then the
Mm.
smiles again between them were super cute.
Yes, yes. I love whenever she calls him Constable, obviously.
We
Like
haven't heard
that's
that in a while.
we haven't, and it's so sweet, and I love it. But also
Yeah.
just her complimenting him is like it happens, like it
Mhm.
feels like it happens very rarely,
Mhm.
but I love it when she does. And I love that he just kind of said thank you
Yes.
because he's not trying to deflect, he's not trying to say, "Oh, just doing my job." It's like he's taken that in and,
Yeah.
it really internalizing that. I love that.
Yes. We get the scene with Tom, Nathan, Elizabeth, Faith, and Mike in town. And this is when Maisie confronts Tom about the lost money and wants Nathan to arrest him. And I kind of chuckled when, Elizabeth says, "We're going to pay you back." And then Maisie says, "And if you don't?" And then Nathan, I think, follows up with, "Then you can press charges." And like Elizabeth quickly turns around, Tom quickly turns around, Faith quickly turns around. Like, what?
They're like, "How dare you?" And he's like, "I'm sorry, guys. That's my job." I like that Nathan didn't back down from it because
Yeah.
he can't. It's his job. It's like
Yeah.
Jack couldn't back down if he had to arrest
Yeah.
somebody. Remember when Lee was, made the sheriff for a day, he had to arrest Carson and the whole
That's
town
right.
was in a riot, but you know what? He had to do what he had to do, and
Yeah.
that's just the way it works. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not a huge fan of Maisie, but Maisie's always right. Like everything she says is usually right. So she's not wrong when she says that, yeah, he's going to have to get locked up if he doesn't pay back the money. That's just the way it goes. So she's not wrong there.
Yeah.
And Nathan knows that. There's not
Yeah.
much Nathan can do.
Just briefly, I love the moment when Elizabeth asks Nathan to join the choir and mentions the camping trip. And then he suggests Bill, and then he's like, "I think he's more of a soprano."
Oh my gosh. I don't think Bill is a soprano,
I don't
but
think so either.
yeah. But Nathan is a tenor, which we've heard him say that before in
Yeah.
season 10. So
Yes.
he would fit the bill, but I don't
Yes.
think Nathan's the type who wants to join the
Yes.
choir.
And then Elizabeth and Jack see Nathan and Allie singing, which I loved that moment when they're
Mhm.
playing the guitar to By the Beautiful Sea. And Elizabeth says, "And he said he wouldn't join a choir. Let's go sing too." I think this is a special moment just for them, Honey Bear.
Mhm. That
And then
was
they
so cute.
and then
Yeah.
they run off, which was really cute.
Mhm. That was really sweet, and
Yeah.
just another example of kind of, like, Elizabeth kind of seeing things a little further than
Yeah.
just, like I don't know. I feel like maybe in a previous season or 2, she might have, like, been like, "Oh, I wanna see what's going on," but she's kinda like, "Okay,
Mhm.
no, we're gonna take a step back, let them have this moment," and I thought it was so sweet that Jack wanted to, like, go over and join them. That was so cute.
Yes. I love the nickname that she has for him, Honey Bear,
Mhm.
because we know in season 1 that Jack is referred to as the bear in the bear, deer, and skunk situation.
Yes,
Or
that's
analogy.
true. That's
Yeah.
so cute. That's so cute. I love
Yes.
that. Thanks for pointing that out. I didn't even think of that. Yeah, it's super
Yes.
cute.
Yeah. But moving on to the Voices of the Valley Music Festival, I loved Ned and Florence's performance of Daisy Daisy. That was really cute.
Yeah. It was
Bicycle
cute.
built for
Yes, yes. I never thought we'd actually see them up on stage again, but I guess it's kind of their thing now. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
They did a great job. And they actually have pretty nice voices too.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
Yeah.
They sound good together. Yeah.
Yes. Maisie's bowing and the reaction when Tom comes up. She's like,
Yes. That was pretty funny.
and then
Literally her like glare when Tom is like speaking, she's like
and then
yeah.
and just walks
Yeah.
away.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
And then the Hope Valley Choir singing Amazing Grace. That is one of my favorite songs.
Yeah. I love that they chose that one.
Yes. And Jacob joins them as tenor.
Mhm.
Also, I think the second verse of that song could be foreshadowing for Elizabeth facing her fears.
That's true. Did they sing the second verse?
Yes, they did. The one that says,
Oh.
"Was grace that taught my heart to fear," and so on and so on. Yeah.
That's yeah. I like that. That's good.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
They did a great job, as
They
always.
sounded really good this season.
Yes, they
Yeah.
did. And I think if I remember correctly, the last time we heard that song on the show, it was Jack's funeral.
That's true. It was. Yeah. You know what I'm hoping? I'm hoping someday we'll hear Danny Boy again. I really want to hear
I
Danny Boy
I
again.
would love
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
This is kind of random, but speaking of Danny Boy and like Amazing Grace, one thing I really would like to see for the show again that we have not seen in a very long time
Yeah.
are some flashbacks or romantic montages. I would love to see
Yeah.
something like that. Like,
Me
I don't know
too.
if you
Yeah.
remember when Elizabeth's singing Danny Boy
Yes.
and you see that beautiful montage of their relationship and kind of all those
Yeah.
big moments. I would love to see something like that
Yeah.
for Nathan and Elizabeth in particular.
Yes. Maybe at their wedding.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
maybe when they're sharing secrets, possibly.
Mm.
I don't know if it would be at their wedding, since their wedding is probably not going to be a big to-do thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. I didn't even think about that, but you're right. Yeah, it could be when
Yeah.
they're sharing secrets. So
Yes.
thought I'd throw that out there because Danny Boy reminded me of
Yeah.
that. But I really want to see some really nice like flashbacks, not just to,
Yeah.
like events or whatever, but also Nathan and Elizabeth's relationship, their story,
Yeah.
their history together. I'd love to see some of those flashbacks brought back.
Yeah. That would be nice.
Mm-hmm.
I know it was done with Jack and Elizabeth, and then just going down a little rabbit hole for a second. It has been done on Signed, Sealed, Delivered too. It was done with the wedding for Rita and Norman. They had some flashbacks of them. And then they've had some moments between Shane and Oliver where in the editing, they'll put in some flashbacks.
Yeah.
In a little montage.
It happens all the time in Heartland too. Like
yes,
all
it does.
the time. And Dr. Quinn as well. Happens a lot in Dr. Quinn. So maybe someday a romantic flashback montage for Nathan.
That would be really sweet.
Yeah.
I loved Nathan and Tom's talk. Tom thanks Nathan for the help, and Nathan says Mounties look out for our own, but I'm not a Mountie. And then Nathan mentions Jack and their dad, which I thought was really sweet. And when Tom said you and Jack would have really liked each other,
and I think they would have. There is no lie there. I think they would have.
Yes. That sounded like a blessing to me, to Nathan.
Yeah. I love that Nathan knows that Tom and Jack's dad was a Mountie as well.
Yeah, me
Like
too.
that's so interesting. I wonder where he found that out, but super super cool little detail in there. And I
Yes.
love that, I personally I didn't need Tom to tell Nathan like, "Oh, you go be with Elizabeth."
Mm-hmm.
But for me, I almost wanted more for him to say you and Jack would have liked each other, which he did, and I
He
was so
did.
happy that
Yeah.
he said that. Yeah.
Yes. And then it was even more of a blessing from Tom to Nathan when he says, "You and Elizabeth." And then Nathan says, "Tom, I." And of course, Tom stops him, and I'm just really glad she has someone like you in her life. She deserves it.
Mhm. Yes. I love that. And I love
Me too.
how, it just even if it's not in a romantic sense that Tom is speaking of them, it's very much like you are someone that she leans on,
Mm-hmm.
almost a protector, someone there for her in her
Yeah.
life. And I almost feel like that's even better than just saying like, "Oh, you two are like you're good together," or whatever. It's
Yeah.
like it's almost even better to say, "I'm glad she has you in her life."
Yes. That was really sweet.
Yeah, I love that.
Jack wants a candy apple, and Nathan pulls out some change from his pocket, and Elizabeth is like, "I don't remember saying yes." "Yeah, but you were gonna."
Oh.
And then the smiles between them and Tom's
Mhm.
facial expression, he's totally onto them.
Oh yeah, he's like, "Okay, okay." Yeah. That was a nice little bit of flirting there. I liked
Yes.
that. That
Yeah.
was really nice. Yeah.
Yes.
And
And
Elizabeth liked it too. She was kinda like, "Ooh, okay."
yeah, I think it really shows how much he knows Elizabeth because
Mhm.
like him offering change to Jack without even asking, like he knew she was going to say yes.
Yes, yeah, and it goes back to, like, kinda that co-parenting thing. We've seen them
Co-parenting.
do it we've
That's
seen
a
them do that a lot over the years, but in this moment, it's almost like they're, like, unofficially, like, co-parenting at this point, and he just kinda knows, like, "Oh, yeah, she's gonna say yes," and
yeah.
in the future, at some point, I'm gonna be the one helping her give permission in
Yeah.
these situations. So,
Yes.
it's very
Yeah.
much very much a co-parenting
Yeah.
moment, and I love that.
Yeah. I think I said it last week for episode 7, but these past 2 episodes, they were totally already acting like a married couple.
Mhm, for sure, yes.
100%.
Especially this one, especially this
Yes.
one. Anytime they do the co-parenting thing, it's very much given those
Yeah.
vibes, for sure.
Yes. We get Tom and Elizabeth, and of course, he gives his blessing to her in this scene. And this was a really sweet brother sister moment between them. You know, Tom is saying he has to find a new job, and of course, Elizabeth is supportive, and she says the most important thing is that you believe in yourself. Then he notices that she is gazing straight at Nathan, who is having a run in with the flowers hanging.
He's just too tall.
He says he's a good man, and Elizabeth says the exact same words that Nathan did, which I loved.
Mhm.
"Tom, I." And then Tom stops her and he says, "You don't have to explain anything, Elizabeth, not to me."
Mhm. I think she was worried that he'd kinda be like, "Really? You're gonna go date another Mountie?" But I think, getting to know Nathan and seeing Nathan kind of in action, helping
Mhm.
him get out of this scrape and how he kinda, like, took care of the town, but also Elizabeth and the people that Elizabeth cared about, it kinda showed him, "Oh, yeah, this is more than just her dating another Mountie. It's, she sees a good man here, and he is a good
Yeah.
man, and he's
Yes.
not a replacement for
No,
Jack."
exactly. And Faith walks up to Tom and asks him to dance. And as they're walking away, Tom says to Elizabeth, "Haven't you heard? It's the 20s."
I loved that. I loved that. It was so great.
Tom is a total Nathan and Elizabeth shipper.
Oh, yes. He definitely is. And I love how he kind of like gave her permission to go make a move, because it feels like up until now, Elizabeth's a very traditional person.
Yes.
Only until this recent season did she cut her hair. She's, shortened her skirts. She's, doing some things that she doesn't normally do. Yeah. And, so I didn't think she was going to make any move unless he kind of like nudged her a little bit. But it is the 20s.
Yeah.
And Elizabeth, she's been married before. She's lost her husband. She's kind of, in this like awkward stalemate with Nathan in a way, because he can't really make the first move at this point because the ball is in her court. And she makes a move because Tom is like, it's the 20s. Go do what you want to do. And I love that.
Yes. Before we get to that dance, may I just say, can Tom please stay in Hope Valley?
Tom and Faith are so cute. Can we see more of them? I love that.
Yeah. I would love for Tom to come back.
Yes. Me too.
Max is a fantastic actor.
He definitely is.
Yes. And why don't we just get to that dance? Okay.
That
Jack and Elizabeth fans, don't come at me. I love Jack and Elizabeth and I love their dances, but dare I say I loved this one 100% more.
Yes. There was just something about it that was just so like perfect. Like you had the music, they didn't need to say a whole lot, but they had this little dialogue going, and it was like perfectly timed. And I'm a sucker for like 20s music and kind of that like old Hollywood vibe, and it was totally that old Hollywood vibe. You had the lights in the background, you had them just dancing, and oh my gosh, it was so great. I loved it. It was great.
The glances across a crowded room, and it's very subtle, but I love when Elizabeth looks at Nathan and then Nathan looks back at her. He kind of nods like, come ask me to dance.
And
that she does, and she walks up and she says, wallflower, huh? And nobody's asked me to dance. I can fix that. Before I get to the line right there, the wallflower comment, in a way, not the same words. I know you did an edit on this after the episode. It reminds me a lot of the comment from her to Jack in season 3 when she walks up to him and she's like, looks like you were stood up.
Yes. Yes, it reminded me a lot of that. And there's kind of like that flirty banter going, but almost the roles are reversed this time, where he's not telling her, she's telling him, and it's just this. It's such a fun little scene.
Yeah,
and I know other people have mentioned this, but the reference to Nathan being a wallflower, it's kind of true up until this point, because we've seen a lot of dances, and the only person we've seen Nathan dance with over all this time is Faith, and every other time they'd be these dances and he wouldn't get a dance partner or whatever. So yeah, he's kind of been a wallflower. I don't watch this show, but I do know that other people are talking about it. There's a new season of Bridgerton going on right now. And the motto of this season is even a wallflower can bloom. And it's almost like the year of the wallflower, where the wallflower really comes into their own. And I feel like that's what's happening right now with Nathan. He's kind of coming into his own, which is fun.
Yes, I think so too. And I don't watch that show either. I haven't yet, but I have heard that comparison. About the I can fix that one. Lindsay totally fixed the season 6 Ladies' Choice dance.
Yes.
Thank you.
I didn't know this dance. We knew this dance was going to happen before this episode aired. I didn't know it was gonna be a ladies' choice dance, and it was perfect. Like there was no kind of like distraction. There was no hurt feelings or disappointment or anything. It was just Nathan and Elizabeth totally focused on each other, and it was great. We've been wanting this dance to happen for years. And when it finally happened, it was totally worth the wait. It was so great.
I think I called that last week. That's another check.
Yep, you're getting a lot of checks this season. I'm getting a lot of X's.
Oh no.
It's fine. I'm never accurate with my guesses.
Let's see how many more checks I got to come. Maybe. Hopefully. Fingers crossed. Elizabeth taking his hand and the thumb caress.
Every time he does this. Every time. And it's, oh my gosh, it never gets old. It never gets old.
Nope.
And it's very subtle, so some people might not notice it right away, and I know I didn't, but other people pointed it out, and I'm like, "Oh, yeah. Yes,
I didn't notice it right away either until someone else said it.
Yeah. Somebody else pointed it out, and I'm like, I mean, it makes sense because every time Nathan holds her hand, you see that little thumb caress. Or even if he's holding, somebody pointed this out, he's holding her book and her signature. He does a little thumb caress over her signature.
Yes.
It's great. It's so great.
It is. And then they walk on the dance floor and he says, you know, I never said yes. Yeah, but you were gonna.
He totally was.
And the intense gazes and her hand over his heart was just precious.
Yes, that was super sweet. And like I said, the fade out of like you see the music build, it just swells right at the end, and then there's like a little fade out. It was so perfect. Like it didn't need to end on a cliffhanger. There was no drama. It was just a beautiful moment, and it got to be in the spotlight, and I loved that.
Before we wrap up episode 8 and talk a little bit about what's coming this week for 9, I think that I never said yes. Yeah, but you were gonna. It's total foreshadowing for Nathan and Elizabeth this season. And this was not my original theory. Kayla posted this on Instagram the other day. She says, I am predicting there will be a scene where Nathan tells Elizabeth he wants to marry her. They get all giddy and kiss, and then she says, you know, I never said yes. And he'll reply with, yeah, but you were gonna. I'm calling it. That is all. That's what
I like that. And even if it doesn't happen this season, maybe next season too.
Yes. Yeah.
That would be great.
Yes.
Yeah.
Either way, whether it's in the proposal or not, I do think that line is going to come back.
I think so too. Yeah.
And even her asking him to dance, I think that possibly could be foreshadowing to maybe her being the one to propose, so to speak, and ask him to marry her.
It definitely could be. Yes. Although I'm a little more traditional, so I would probably prefer for him to ask her.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be mad about it, obviously. Yeah.
Yes. I mean, of course he would be the one to give her the ring, but maybe she is the one to initiate, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Yes. Now that I'm thinking about it, actually, in Dr. Quinn, Michaela actually proposes to Sully at one point. And that is a very romantic scene. She comes up, he's chopping wood, and he's angry. And she comes up, they have a little bit of a butting heads quarrel moment, and then she basically proposes to him. They have a huge kiss. It's amazing.
Really sweet. Yeah.
Definitely possible.
It's
definitely possible.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I think we've pretty much covered everything for 8. Why don't we just talk about what's coming up this week? We have Allie's storyline, which I'm so excited about.
I think that storyline's gonna be really good. I do think it's gonna be something that possibly carries into the next episode even more.
Yeah.
So I think it's just gonna be kickstarting this week. So I'm not expecting resolution or a lot of explanation this week. Maybe just some, questions and build up. But it definitely looks like Nathan and Elizabeth are gonna get to spend some quality time in this episode, so I'm excited for that.
Yes. I think this storyline is going to drive them even closer.
For sure. Yes.
I think this, along with the Mountie action, is going to solidify that they want to get married.
Definitely, I think it will strengthen their relationship for sure.
We get the porch chat with Nathan and Elizabeth. That is their thing.
It definitely is. It feels like it happens at least every other episode.
Yes.
There's it's great, and I love it because it doesn't have to be fancy. It doesn't have to be elaborate. It's just at their home because that's where they're at this point. They're both single parents. They both have very busy lives, and sometimes that just means sharing a moment by the porch while your kids are in bed or your kids are eating dinner or doing whatever. Sometimes that's all you can do, and for them it works, and I love it.
Yeah. And I'm excited to see that scene. And see Elizabeth be so supportive of Nathan. And of course, Allie too.
Me too.
I think possibly maybe we'll get another hug between them. Maybe
I think so, yeah. I think this time, in contrast to episode 6, I think this time Nathan's going to be the one who's vulnerable with Elizabeth. Yeah. So I think, he may need a hug this time.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think it's going to be a very tough 2 episodes for him.
Yeah. We get the great scene where Nathan asks Elizabeth on a date and she suggests a picnic. I have a thought, but I'll share that in just a second. Jack also gets a pony, and of course Montague comes back to Hope Valley. I'm excited to see Jack getting a pony.
Yes, I'm very excited. Yes. And I think we're all wise enough to know that picnic ain't happening, but maybe the horse ride will. You never know.
This is my theory. That date is not happening, of course. I think it is going to be the cliffhanger for this episode. I think that they will start to have the picnic, and then somebody, maybe Bill, will come to wherever they're having the picnic and tell Nathan that Allie has run away.
Yeah.
And then they have to go on horseback. Nathan on Newton.
That's
Elizabeth
true.
On Sergeant after Allie. And that'll be the end of the episode. That'll be what ends the episode. Fade to black.
I definitely think so, yeah. It's going to be a very emotional episode coming in episode 10, I believe.
Yeah.
And like you said, I do think the cliffhanger for episode 9 is going to involve Allie running away to go meet her dad.
Talking a little bit about predictions for after 9, we saw some episode 10 photos. Family dinner. I'm so excited we're finally getting that.
I'm so excited. And there's one photo, they're all sitting at the table. Allie's kind of talking with her head down, and Elizabeth's kind of giving her a look like, and Nathan's kind of giving her this look like, what are you saying? And he's got his mouth full.
Yes.
I think she's telling Elizabeth a secret about Nathan, and Nathan's kind of like, Allie, shut up.
Maybe.
And Elizabeth's like, oh, tell me more.
Yes, maybe. Yeah.
So it's kind of like, in season 7 when Allie tells Elizabeth, oh, he talks about you a lot. And she's kind of like, oh, what does he say? I think it's going to be a little bit of a moment like that, except Nathan's there to hear it.
It could be. Yeah, that would be really sweet.
Yeah, I think that's where that's going to go. But I'm excited for the family dinner.
Also, Lindsay fixed another thing. Check.
Yes. That family dinner that we've been wanting since season 8 because it never happened. Now we're finally going to see it. And it's in the row house. I'm so happy about that. The question is, whose row house is it and who's cooking? Yes. That's what I want to know.
Yes. Take that, season 8 family dinner gone wrong.
Yes.
Also, the photo of them on the porch, Nathan and Elizabeth. Second week in a row, we're going to get a porch scene.
Yes. I'm excited about that.
Yes, me too. And I have a theory. Now, I don't know if it's going to happen at this moment, but I honestly would not be surprised if their first kiss was in that scene on the porch because it is their new spot.
It definitely could be. I do think it's going to happen. Their first kiss is going to happen in a more dramatic moment, but that's just me visualizing it. I could be completely wrong. And it would make sense for them to have their first kiss on the front porch. I think in view of how many times they've had scenes there.
Yes.
It would make sense.
And she has her journal too, which is really sweet. Hopefully she'll share some of her journal. And I do think it's telling because she never even shared her journal with Jack.
That's true. Yeah. And I think if she does share her journal with Nathan, that's going to be a huge, huge thing.
I think so too. I'm so excited about the rest of the season. It's going to be great.
Too. Yes. Yeah. I think we're on an upward trajectory of, some stories are getting resolved, moving forward a little bit. And I love that. I'm excited for the next few episodes. I think it's going to be great.
We are about to hit the downhill slope, as Elizabeth Stewart said.
Yes. Well, you think about it, only 4 more episodes, and a lot's going to happen in the next 4 episodes. So,
I mean, episode 9 last year, we got the panic attack from Elizabeth. So, going to be good, and I can't wait.
I'm excited. I think it's going to be really good.
Yes. Well, I think we've pretty much covered everything. Is there anything else you want to share? Any other theories you might have before we wrap up?
I think we talked about this briefly, but obviously everyone I've talked to is very much looking forward to episode 11 because we know it's a big one. There's some Mountie action, possibly some drama. The episode is titled Run to You, which to me is immediately in my mind telling me, okay, Nathan's probably going to be in some kind of danger, and it's going to include a sequence of Elizabeth running to him. Much like Jack returning from the Northern Territories. Something like that. If that's where we're going, I am 100% excited for that because everyone probably already knows this because I say it all the time, but that is my favorite scene of the entire series.
One of my favorites too.
So if that's where we're going, I'm here for it. I love that. But even episode 12, I think we have a lot to look forward to. Even if we don't even know what that looks like at this point. We don't know much about it, but I think episode 12 is going to be really good too.
I think so too. And Derek Thompson wrote episode 11, and he did say it's a big one. So
he writes some good episodes, so I'm excited.
But anyway, Hearties, I think that concludes our review of When Calls the Heart, season 11, episode 8, Brother's Keeper. If you enjoyed this episode, you can like this video and share your thoughts about it and any predictions you may have for the rest of the season in the comments. If you want to stay up to date on all of our reviews for the remainder of the season, you can subscribe to this channel and make sure to turn on the bell so you are alerted when new episodes come. Thank you so much for listening. We hope you have a great day or night wherever you are in the world, and we will see you next week. We love y'all. Bye.
Bye.